welcome to the Scuba Academy. I'm your host, Michael Mark. I hope you are doing well wherever you are on our blue planet. In today's episode, we'll be discussing the iconic Bonaire dive site, Salt Pier. Before we begin, make sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons. Now, without further delay, let's jump straight in. The island of Bonaire is synonymous for scuba diving excellence in the Caribbean. With over 80 marked dive sites, most of which are accessible from shore, diving in Bonaire is both easy and fun for divers of all certification level. But of the many wonderful sites in Bonaire, there is one that sits at the top of the list, one that veteran Bonaire divers look forward to diving year after year, and one that promises spectacular marine life, both day and night. This site is the iconic Salt Pier. Salt Pier is located south of Klondike and is operated by the Cargill Salt Company. Yes, it is a working pier. More on that in a moment. As you pass through Klondike and continue south along the coastal roadway, you will begin your approach to Salt Pier. On your left, you will pass the pink-hued waters of the Cargill Solar Salt Works, a favorite place to photograph the beautiful pink flamingos of Bonaire. In the distance, and across the road from Salt Pier, you see massive pyramid-like mounds of salt, waiting to be loaded onto gargantuan freight ships. Unfortunately, if one of these freight ships is docked at the pier, diving is forbade. This policy is strictly enforced. If there is no ship docked, then you are free to dive. There is ample parking close to the entrance point into water. The dive site entrance is usually marked but can shift locations over time. In any event, the entrance into the water at Salt Pier is one of Bonaire's easiest. Navigation is relatively simple, and merely a matter of following the superstructure of the pier to and from depth. The pier, which is used to transport salt from shore onto boats, is supported by dozens of large pilings. The shelter provided by the pier has fostered incredible coral and sponge growth on these columns, as well as providing sanctuary to schools of colorful fish and other creatures. Beginning your dive at a depth of 5 to 10 feet, you will swim under the pier and between the pier's column-like pilings until you reach the end of the main conveyor pier. You will now be at a depth of 40 to 55 feet. This area is the main attraction, so get your camera ready. Clouds of schooling fish usually envelop this area of the pier and slowly move from one piling to another. You will feel as if you are diving through a cathedral as bright beams of sun create mosaic-like structures of light. The pier is also sanctuary to resident tarpon, barracuda, and horse-eyed jack that prowl patiently between the structure's many coral-festooned pilings. The sponge and coral formations in this area are the site's most beautiful and photogenic. I suggest finding a comfortable place to hover and just sit back and watch the show for 10 to 15 minutes before moving on. From this point of the pier, you can also dive to the north and south areas, or if you will, to the right and left of the main conveyor pier. Smaller structures or mini piers used to moor ships in place flank the main conveyor pier and are also worth visiting. You should have plenty of air to explore in both directions before heading back to shore under the main conveyor pier. If you run low on air or get separated from your buddy, just ascend slowly to surface and swim to shore. Even at the furthest point from shore, you will be within an easy swim back. No worries. Another reason this site is so great for newer divers. As you swim back to shore, it is not uncommon to see an enormous bait ball of tiny fish in the shallows. This is a common occurrence, as the fish form protective formations to shield against the hungry pelicans perching atop the pier. You may even be startled by a dive-bombing pelican scooping up lunch as you dive by. Night diving Salt Pier is a fantastic experience, and undoubtedly will be one of your favorite Bonaire dives. The shallow topography of the site and the ease of navigation make for a terrific night dive. Your light will illuminate the corals, making their already gorgeous colors even more vivid. Nocturnal predators such as tarpon and octopus are commonly sighted, as are eagle ray that arrive to feed on the photoplankton attracted to the pier's many downward-facing spotlights. Take your time in the shallows as all manner of creatures emerge and begin to scuttle about the sandy bottom, making for excellent opportunities for photographers. In short, do not miss an opportunity to dive Salt Pier at night. In closing, if you are planning to spend a week or more in Bonaire, you will definitely want to dive this iconic dive site more than once. Salt Pier is an enriching experience, and one that has rewarded many of its visitors with a lifelong love of diving. Thank you for tuning in. Please hit the like and subscribe buttons if you like what we do. Until next time, cheers.